Andrew, welcome back. This is your threefer for
I know. Do you have anyone else that's going 3 for 3 at this point?
Not yet. Not yet.
All right. I'm the first. Look at me paving the way.
We chatted off camera, asked about your show season because this is last day of February. The show season has passed. Thankfully, you did a shit ton of shows and also coming off of your pop-up, which is what we're here to talk about. You are super transparent about your numbers and about business. And I think the only other person that I've seen that is this transparent about numbers and like, hey, this is, I mean, why not, is Carolyn Weaver of the Locavore. She is like, does a state of the store and she'll talk about what her revenue needs to be, what it actually was, her ROI. So to see you do this, I figured, okay, let's do this and let's get into it. And you put some questions out to your listeners, and I'm gonna ask you those questions for them. But first, reintroduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing the last couple of months.
Yeah, I'm Andrew. I'm the founder of That's Sir Andrew, which is a snarky gift brand for the girls, gays, and bays. We just closed our third year on January 22nd. So that was the completion of 3 years. And we're in year 4 now. And I just wrapped up winter trade show season, which consisted of 3 markets, Dallas, Atlanta, and New York. And then in quarter 4 of last year, I randomly decided to open a pop-up Christmas store. So that was 9 weeks of chaos and fun. And now we're getting into March, and March is my planned let's take a minute month. So we're slowing down, which is much, much needed because I slept in my own bed in the last 60 days. Like this year, I've slept in my bed 12 times, which is insane. I know. Isn't that nuts? I was counting last night and I was like, this is sick. You're disgusting.
I travel a lot. I mean, I think we've been in this house for a year now. And because of my travel schedule, we figured out I've maybe been here 4 months total. Like, what the fuck? And, you know, I mean, that was the deal I made. If I'm going to travel this much, then when I'm home, I'm going to be home and focus on this and focus on other side projects. So, you know, it is keeping up with that promise to myself. But I will say this though, and I don't know about you, if you're going to get like this, is that all set in, we talked about it in the podcast last week as merchandisers, and we're like busy, same thing as you, show setup. You know, you also have a second job as an airline attendant. So you're not like sitting on your laurels when you're home, but when the show season ends, because you're running on such a frenetic pace that it just ends, and it's like almost like you walk off a cliff, there is this moment of like, what the fuck do I do now? Like, is it just me? Do you have that? Like, what do I do now? But, you know.
I don't have the what do I do now. I have the, I avoided 70% of my business operations the last 30 days. So now I have more stuff to do.
That's good.
But I do, I tend to go into the, like the design and the vibe side in my off seasons, which is really what I enjoy about the job, is designing and creating. So,
is your schedule hectic though? I mean, you know, it seems like much like this, I'm still working on stuff, but it's such a slower pace, and I'm not using my hands. Like I miss the actual merchandising and doing. Mm-hmm. That's when it's like, oh my God, what do I do? It's like, what do I do with these?
Yeah. I, spoiler alert, reopened the Christmas store to a permanent gift shop. And so I think that's kind of been where my like physical creativeness has gone, is, you know, rebranding it and revamping it to be an everyday store rather than a Christmas themed store. And so it's been a lot of merchandising and fluffing and painting. And so I did kind of just have that forced creative spurt. But yeah, I don't know. My hands need a break too. I want to go do like a hobby, like stained glass or something.
I don't see.
That's what I need them to do.
See you doing that, but it'll be interesting to see what you do with your March. So as I said, you are super transparent with numbers, and I don't know if I asked Caroline because I interviewed her. Her episode hasn't come out yet, but what is the why behind that? Of being so open and so transparent, what is the why?
I don't know if it's, I don't know Carolyn. I'm not familiar with her, so I don't know her why, but I'm going to go look at her after this. My answer is why not? And I don't know if it just comes from being like younger, where like pay transparency is very, very important. Like in the corporate world of like people always, you know, like women are always getting paid less, or people of color and marginalized communities were always secretly getting paid less. And maybe that's just fueled like a different vibe for my generation of like, who cares? Who does it harm? Like, I think maybe if I wasn't successful, I might feel different about it, if that makes sense, you know, like, but I don't have anything to be like ashamed or embarrassed of. And to me, it gives realistic expectations in this world of social media, where you look at stores and they're cute and they're curated and they're perfect for other brands. And, you know, I'm here doing multi six figures in my own brand. And I'm like, well, then what is she doing? And am I comparing myself to somebody who looks like they're doing $1 million a year? Or are they actually just doing the same as me? You know what I mean? And so I think transparency is important, especially for the whole world of like imposter syndrome, and especially in our small business community. You know what I mean?
I think more, it should be done more, but the reason why I ask is because retail is very competitive, and people get super weird about sharing information. Like even something as simple as like sharing, like, hey, just want to ask you, did this line do well for you? You know, we're about to carry it. You may be in a totally different state, but there's stores that won't answer just because it's like I'm not giving away that information. Like it's a secret. And it's like, I think that's part of why I like the boutique hub so much, because of their whole philosophy of community over competition.
Yeah.
And you and Caroline sharing numbers and whatnot, I think is only going to strengthen the industry, especially for the rest of the stores that don't know. And there's not the comparison. It's like, well, how is somebody else doing this? As well as like some of the things you share. It's like, you know, I think it's, as a new business owner, I think that is helpful. And I think it's important. And I think that you by you guys doing this, you are kind of becoming somewhat of a mentor to the world of retail, to people that are new, that need help, that aren't going to have somebody to ask. And you guys are just out there giving free information.
Yeah. And like, I'd happy to, like, maybe one day I'll put a paywall up and you have to pay me $5 to find out. That'd be great. But no, and I just think everyone's idea of like success is different. And so the numbers I'm about to say, I'm not necessarily happy with, but I'm also, there's someone out there that would be. And I think everyone's level of expectations and like what kind of income they want for themselves differs too. So someone that's really successful might only be selling $10,000 a month, but their overhead is $1,000. So they're making $9,000, you know what I mean? Like everyone's numbers and overhead is different. And so it's hard to say, like, I see the post I'm actually in that Boutique Hub Facebook group, and all the time people are like, how much are you making in your storefront? Like, what should I be doing? And I'm like, it depends. It's circumstantial. I don't know.
But I think that having a conversation and being so open about it, I think, again, like, I think all it does is help mentor and, you know, people that are doing better or not doing better. I mean, I think it just helps the I guess, atmosphere or the temperature of our industry to, you know what, not that it's, you need to know, but it's nice to have somebody share that. So, and if you aren't doing well, to make you feel better, like, fuck, thank God I'm not the only one. Like,
yeah, I think it's really interesting information to have, and it's important information to set some sort of like baseline or something for people to relate to. I'm not familiar with, I don't know if you're familiar with Katie Hunt's podcast, Proof to Product, but last year she did a survey. She teaches like a wholesale trade, selling wholesale course. And she did a survey. It was like 1,000 people filled out this information, and it was anonymous, but it was like, broke down how much people are making in revenue, how much they're paying themselves, how long they've been in business. And it just gave you like a temp check of where you're at. And it helped me with a lot of transparency, because it was like, oh, if you've been in business 2 years, on average, this is how much, this is the range of what people are making in sales and how much they're paying themselves. And I was above those numbers. And so it was very validating to me to feel on track, where I've been comparing myself to people doing $500,000 to $1 million a year. And I'm like, why don't I have as much as them? And it's like, well, you're just not there yet. So
yeah, just 3 years.
It helps. Yeah.
And
knowledge is important.
3 years is pretty insane.
Yeah, I'm definitely a runner, a sprinter, if you will.
So, okay, to touch on the last time we talked, it was before the holiday season started. You opened this concept store. You bought the building, which Herculean anyway. You bought the building, and in waiting to go through permits and et cetera, and funding the long play of this building, you did a pop-up shop. And you went in and you created a holiday concept pop-up shop. Mm-hmm. Take us through how opening went, how reception from the neighborhood, how, like what were your first weeks like? And then we'll get into like a little bit of the long play.
Yeah. So it opened on October 25th was our grand opening, and ribbon cutting with the mayor and the city council. I come from a small-ish community. We have 20,000 people here in the city. It's called Monroe. It's in Washington State, and it is very community-driven type of town, which is great. And we had an amazing turnout. We had probably 25 to 30 people there, like at ribbon cutting, which like my family came. I have a business partner in the building and storefront endeavor. And so her friends and family came, and the city was there, some council members and just other people from the community. And it was great. It was actually really, really overwhelming, and probably one of like the first moments I've ever had of feeling like I'm impacting my local community, because I've had successes before, but never on such a like hyper local level, if that makes sense. Like this is where I grew up, and holy fuck, I'm cutting a ribbon with it's
amazing.
With my friend that I met because I used to deliver pizza for her pizza shop. And like 8 years later, we're sharing a giant or using giant scissors to cut a ribbon with like friends and family. It was very surreal, and it was really amazing. And the community loved it. And our downtown corridor really has been struggling to recover from COVID, especially on like the retail side, where this community is really good at supporting restaurants, but when it comes to retail, they struggle a little bit. And so it was refreshing how much feedback there was of, we just need this. Like, we're the only gift shop in Monroe.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Wow.
And there's other like retail things like antique malls and vintage shops and kind of stuff like that, but nothing that's like selling gifts and, kitschy little stocking stuffers and cards. Like no one in town sells cards. We don't even have a Hallmark store anymore. So it's like you go to Walmart or Fred Meyer,
Yeah.
So it was great. It really was. Like it was a high. I need to print out, if you're watching this, I have giant photos of myself behind me on my wall. I need to print one of the ribbon cutting because there's like the best still photo is captured. And
any of that on Instagram? Did you have somebody filming for you, or was it just you were so in the moment that you didn't?
No, there was like 8. Everyone had a camera out. Like I have the whole footage, and I need to actually do.
Why did I not just see?
I didn't realize I didn't repost to that. Yeah. And the city, like the Chamber of Commerce in our town, they did like a live video, and their live videos usually get around like 2,000, 3,000 views. We got almost 11,000 views on our video in the first 24 hours. Yeah. Like it was insane. And just to be my petty self, I'll bring up that we did get canceled the day we opened by our local conservative women's group.
Yeah, that's part of what I want to talk about, because
I would love to talk about it.
I love that you clapped back, which I think is important.
I'll give you the quick rundown. We did our live grand opening video, and I talked about how everything in the store and all the vendors that we partnered with were from marginalized backgrounds and communities. And the conservative women's group, there's like 300 women in this group, and they just screenshotted the video, and they opened a new gift shop and they banned straight white men. So if you're a straight white man, don't go there. Like that was the takeaway from it. And I grew up in this town. So of those 300 women, of course, there's probably like 20 to 30 that I know. And screenshots started rolling into my inbox of every comment that was said and everything. And it pissed me off. Like,
Out.
it really did, because I was like, you missed the point, okay? And I didn't ban straight men. None really applied that were worthy of bringing into the store. It was like, my business partner agreed we were going to prioritize partnering with people from marginalized communities. But that didn't mean, like, if my dad wanted a straight white man built everything in my store, my dad, Mark,
Loved it.
so they weren't banned, but it was humorous to me in the way they interpreted it, but also, I wanted to say something back, and I'm not in the group. So of course the place I did it was TikTok and Instagram, and I filmed a reel telling them basically to shove it and that I'm here to make an impact on my community. And if you don't support that, fuck off, basically. And within 8 hours, that TikTok had then been reposted to their group again. And then they started, that post got icky and people started gay bashing. And one of my favorite comments was, he's just gay and those gays want attention. Literally word for word is what the comment was. And it killed me because it's so funny. And then the other comments were like, why is he engaged? If he doesn't care about us, then why is he engaging? And this and that. And a friend of mine is a conservative woman, and I respect her right to be one. And without saying more on that, she went in there and was like, do you guys not understand that he gets paid per view?
I love that. Yeah.
Do you not understand? So I clapped back to them. My post on Instagram kind of went off with my clap back, and it ended up being some of the best marketing I could ever have planned for. Because for the next 2 weeks, any day I was working at the store, people were like, I saw your video, I had to come see. It worked out. So not only did I get paid for the views, which was very minimal what I get paid per view on TikTok, but I did. 2, it got people, was having people drive from 30 minutes away saying, I just wanted to come support a queer and woman-owned business after I saw your video. Like, Instagram pushed that video to people and to the right kind of people. And I did just release a new sticker that says, I'm gay and want attention. So
You're gonna
I filmed the reel for it. I just it's getting posted next week. I'm not quite ready to be canceled and fight on Facebook yet, but it's there. So but yeah, it's just crazy the conclusion people drew, but overall it worked out in my favor. So keep hating, appreciate the engagement, and check.
The conservative parts I have a hard time with, because it's, that's all I'm going to say. And it's hard not to clap back. And I think partly I love the vendors just for what's happening right now. I love the retailers that are clapping back and that are using their voice, because I think a lot of people are too afraid of being canceled and too afraid to say something. And it's like, I don't know. I'm for those who clap back, I love you all, because I think it's important. And I think it's important to raise your voice about things and not stay quiet. That's just me.
I agree. And I know not everybody can do it or feel safe in their communities to do it. But at the end of the day, if you walk into the store, there's fucks everywhere. There's gay shit everywhere. There's feminine energy. Like, it's what you're going to get. And it's like, those people aren't going to buy anything from me anyways, is kind of the conclusion I've drawn, the really extreme conservatives. And the thing is, there is such a spectrum of people's tolerances for each other. And like the coffee stand that I go to every day, everyone that works there, they're a bunch of conservatives. They're friends with my sister. Like, they are a bunch of conservative women in their 30s, but they love me and I love them. And it's like, I'm not, they're still shopping the store. It's just the extremists. Like, if you're not going to support me for being gay, then you're not going to support me. No. Like, okay, I don't care, and there aren't, luckily in my there aren't a lot of that extremist of people, So no one's throwing rocks through my window for a gay flag or anything like that, which it probably will happen. But I'll make a video about it and I'll get views and then I'll get press and then people will shop. So hate crime away.
Lemonade out of lemon. So now that okay, so post Christmas you closed. Did you close right at Christmas?
December 23rd, because I didn't want to work Christmas Eve. So we closed December 23rd and then stayed closed. I spent January everywhere but home doing trade shows. And then my business partner and I got denied for our SBA loan that we wanted to do a build out of the building. The long-term goal is to do a progressive dive bar, which takes like $200,000, no big deal. But it kind of came in a moment of where her and I are both at our absolute ends of bandwidth. She owns 2 other businesses, a pizza shop and a whiskey bar. I have my brand. I work full time and my brand is skyrocketing, to be honest. Like, my January was the best I've ever had. It was the first like $30,000 month that I've ever had without like a big box order or something like that. It's just straight orders off Fair, which is insane. Okay. And so I feel like now is not the time to divide my attention into building at a bar. And so it just worked out. So we've put a pause in that plan and we're pivoting. And the building's kind of divided down the middle by this giant like hallway type thing because it's a 100-year-old building. And so we decided to reopen the front half as a gift shop. The building is historically for like 25 years was our local newspaper. So there's a giant 20-foot sign out front that says The Monitor on it. And so we renamed the store from That's So Festive to The Monitor Mercantile to kind of pay tribute to the history of the building and utilize our free 20-foot sign that says The Monitor on it. And we reopened on Valentine's Day because there was like a community type function, like chocolate walk, on the 15th. So I was like, we have to be reopened by then. And yeah, now we've been reopened for 2 weeks, but I haven't really even told anybody that we've been reopened because I've been so insanely busy that I literally created a Facebook page like 2 days ago for it. So we're going to have like a grand reopening event and kind of like let everybody know that we're here again. But people are walking in and sales are being made. So
when you weren't open for January, did you take everything out or you just
no
product there like the Marfa Prada store? It's here and it's product.
Yeah, like I locked the door on the 23rd and that was it. There was Christmas trees in the window until February 8th. Like I was gone. Like, and my business partner didn't want to do it alone because there was so much Christmas stuff that belonged to me. Like all those trees in the window were my personal trees. Like she's like, I don't know what goes where. So she didn't want to do it herself. So we did like a 3-day block of transformation and like scheduled it. We did it like February 8th, 9th, and 10th. And we just flipped the store in like 3 days.
I saw you painting the landing of the window, which I love. And
yeah. So we went to Sherwin-Williams. We picked out our new paint palette. We picked out a rainbow of colors. There's like 6 of them. And we got Papa Mark to come down and do his dad thing. And we added a whole wall of pegboard because we were consolidating a lot. We had the entire building filled during the Christmas store because the back half was full of vendors on consignment. And so we brought some of them stayed. And so we just kind of we merchandised everything together in the front so that there's no longer like vendor booths. It's just all cohesively blended. And here we are. I have to work there today from 3 to 6. So
got to get on with this conversation. So with the store, one of the questions, we won't get into your questions yet in the back, but one of them does kind of go towards this. We just touched on it, having people, different vendors on consignment in the back.
Yeah.
How did that work out? Did you have did traffic flow back there? Because I think one of my questions is like, you said it's split down the middle and you have to go down to hall to this back area. Was there any challenges you had with getting traffic to go to the back?
We did. So basically, if you picture yourself walking into a front door and it's just a box, in the back left corner is a doorway, and it's like a 4-foot hallway, and then the whole back opens up again. And so I decorated the hallway, I hung a sign, I added Christmas lights. I did all these things that looked like you were supposed to walk through this tunnel. And people still felt like they shouldn't. And so very quickly, I realized we needed more signage. So I put like an A-frame up that said, literally said like, yes, you can go back there. And then I made sure that anyone working in the staff just like encouraged everybody, be like, hey, it continues on to the back. And we overcame it pretty quickly. And for the most part, I don't think there was anyone that walked in and never figured out they could go back there, you know, because it is an intimate space. Like the front half's like 900 square feet. So it's like, if you're working as the cashier, you can always see who's in the room. So, yeah, it worked out the best it could. I mean, obviously, it would have been better if there wasn't a hallway, but the vendors ended up making just as much income as the storefront did, like our section in the front. So, I think, yeah.
Good. I had asked that, and then my other question from our last interview was, because I was asking, are you worried about shoplifting? Like, are you worried about loss prevention? Like, how did that work out? Did you have any issues, or did you have pretty respectful shoppers?
So, I have one vendor in particular that. Her name is Bonnie, and I love and adore her. And she sells car fresheners. And she is much, much more on her inventory than anybody else was. And so we had a conversation just a couple weeks ago when we were getting the store reopened. And she was like, so what'd you figure out for like shrinkage? Did you guys notice any? And she's like, because I definitely had like some stuff stolen. And so I do think there was, I think, a very small percentage of anything that maybe went missing was just like an error in the cashiering. So maybe things were rang up under the wrong vendor number or something of that sort. And so, of course, there probably was some stealing and some shrinkage, as Bonnie likes to call it, which I've never heard that term before, and it cracks me up.
No.
And, we put cameras up, and the thing about cameras is you only can use cameras if you're suspicious in a moment that somebody was stealing. And so then you can go look at them. You know what I mean? Like, no, I'm not sitting there watching 24 hours of footage to see anyone putting things in their pockets. So there probably was. Nobody had like a huge complaint of like anything big or super expensive going missing. We did have a screen up at the register that had one of the cameras, like a live feed for it. So the cashier person could see the back if they were like helping customers. But part of the reason we decided to close the back half was just because there is that huge separation of not being able to see customers and having this like trust in random people that they won't steal from you. So yeah, I'm sure there was some. And now there's always someone that can now if you work at the store, you can see anybody in the store. And so that's as close as we can get to helping, you know what I mean? But people are good.
Oh yeah,
people are kleptos. They can steal something right in front of you. So
I mean, I have retailers that one of my stores, Serendipity, she sells beautiful, expensive jewelry and then gifts and whatnot. And this is a super small store. Like it's like stuff is like right across the counter. And people are so good that she'll notice something, how she figures it out and utilizes her cameras. And this will help for people that are listening, is that she'll go through and notice like, oh, that necklace is missing. Let me go. She'll check sales first, and then nothing's rung up. And then she'll ask the team, do you guys remember selling this? Did it get rung up something? No. Then she'll go back to the camera for the last few days from the last time she remembers it. And I swear to God, every single time, she can find the person. And it's the person's very casually standing there and they're looking around. And it's such a small, quick movement of putting something in your pocket.
Yeah, it's so quick.
That it's like, it's a pause, but how they utilize it now. And there's a couple other stores, I think curious might do it too. But they'll print out
the shame board.
Yes.
We talked about it last time. Yes, the shame board.
I think it's like super smart because, I mean, it's hard to do like where Curious is. It's Hermosa and Manhattan Beach. It's a lot of very wealthy families. And, you know, obviously you can't, if it's a kid or somebody's like nanny or something like that, you really are riding a fine line doing that.
Yeah.
But for Serendipity, like she hasn't gotten the product back with that person because it's a super small community on Tahunga and Studio City. Everyone knows everyone. Someone has saw it and someone let her know and she has not come back, which if you don't get it back, that's the ultimate goal is the person doesn't come back and doesn't continue to shop and steal. I think Urban Girl did it too, or somebody reposted like in a mall situation, somebody posted the person was going from store to store to store and the whole mall and all the stores involved did it as well. So that's a good way to use your cameras, everyone. That's enough about that.
Yeah.
So part of what you've been doing is talking about like you were in your elf costume and you were talking your ROIs, which that's kind of when we started talking about doing this is talking about the brass tacks of how this went down. And the first question was you own the building. So you don't have to, you've got a mortgage to pay, I guess. Is that what you pay on a building? But after that, did you have a budget? Because also you're using your own product, which helped keep cost of goods or your inventory cost out of pocket down. Did you have a budget for both the build out Mark is doing the build out, but for the pegboard, for the counters and for all the fixturing that you need, did you have a budget for all of that went into opening the store?
I did have a budget. I'll tell you the original budget before I tell you what I spent. The original budget was $13,000, $10,000 to purchase inventory because I needed stuff that wasn't just my line. And the other $3,000 was for build out and administrative costs like the licensing and open signs and shit like that. I did not spend $13,000. I spent much, much more.
I don't mean to laugh. Here's your delivery.
I will say I did not have to buy a single Christmas tree, which was great because I had 7 sitting in my garage. So, and let me correct that. I did buy 1 Christmas tree because those 7 Christmas trees were in my garage and went to the store and looked gorgeous at the store. And then I was left without a Christmas tree, which I thought would be okay. And it wasn't. So I went and bought myself. I went and spent $75 on a Christmas tree for myself to put in my bedroom because I love Christmas. Our build out budget actually was not bad. And I could do it cheaper if I did this again. But we built a couple things that were a long-term plan to stay in the building, such as like the window riser, which cost about $500 in materials. Like I wouldn't have built that if it was truly a temporary pop-up. But I spent $2,280 on build out for all the pegboard, the IKEA bookshelves, which I scored off Facebook Marketplace, window riser, framing, like all those things. And then a ton of the stuff I already had. I already had sticker displays. I already had card wall or shelves for a card wall. I had a lot of stuff already that I utilized to the maximum. And then I spent $20,000 on inventory instead of 10.
We doubled it. Now, okay, so let me ask you this. Obviously you underestimated what you needed. Was it because you got it there and it didn't feel full, or as you were ordering, you didn't realize where you were at?
Michelle, I made the decision to throw out my budget for inventory before things even started coming in. Okay. I ordered inventory in July during the online fair market. And here's where my little brain went. Fair offers free returns for your first order from a brand for 60 days. For 60 days. My store was going to be open for 70 days. So I said, fuck it. And I ordered everything and anything that I wanted. I was much, much more intentional about ordering like quantities and staying within a budget for things I knew I couldn't return. So like seasonal items you can't return and things that I'd ordered before. And so there's quite a few brands that I've ordered stuff before for other retail pop-up endeavors, not like storefronts, but like other things. But after that, I went ham. And of that $20,000, 5 of it was invested into doing a charm bar, which I never did.
Oh, you still have it? Did you get the product?
No.
Okay.
I got the product and I set it up. It was much, much more intensive than I thought it was going to be. And I never ended up really executing it because shit just got lost in the sauce. So I ordered $20,000 worth of inventory and I returned 7 at the end of it. So I spent 13. So our budget wasn't really that far over. And I could have returned quite a bit more. But we had already kind of made the decision we were going to keep the gift shop a little bit longer term. So I only returned stuff that the sell-through wasn't there in our little 9-week storefront experiment.
Well, that's a way to work the system.
For sure.
Pretty sure Fair doesn't think about like people doing it like, okay,
no,
I'm going to do this too.
Yeah.
Bravo for doing that.
Yeah. And I do know like the impact that it has on a shop when you do returns to Fair from like a brand perspective.
Yeah.
And so it's not something that I would like repeat that.
Write them little thank you notes. Thank you. And I'm so sorry.
Well, no, Fair covers. So it doesn't hurt the brand financially. Fair takes the returns and Fair resells the merchandise. It just takes a hit to like your sell-through ratio on Fair as a brand. If I knew small businesses were having to return the stock because I went and did a pop-up store, I would never have done that. But a corporation, just take it, Fair. You know what I mean? Take it. Like
how long Fair is going to be able to do that. Like that's a whole other podcast, but I have to wonder how long they will be able to do that and not return the goods to the vendor. Like that'll be.
I think eventually that'll be. They're like, we're cutting our return program and it goes straight back. And I would never do that. But like as a brand, I even offer it to stores that aren't sure about carrying my line. I'm like, you can return it for 60 days. It doesn't cost me any money. It just hurts my little algorithm score a little bit and it'll sell. So I'm not concerned. But it gave me honestly, it gave me the ability to test out a couple product categories that I was nervous to try. And so I tested out some higher end fragrances, like in the $100 price point range, tested out some decor items, tested out some like garden items. And it was good to test kind of what would land in my market because I'm like, I know my demographic for that. So Andrew and the people that take that, but I don't 100% have my demographic dialed in for the greater economy of like Monroe and our storefront. So it was great. And most of the stuff that I returned was the $5,000 worth of charm bar. So yeah.
Yeah. Charm bars, I love them. They're amazing, but they are like a whole other animal. I was going to open one for Rock Paradise, who came from New York, and they were all hot on the, was it the Brooklyn Charms? I don't know if you've seen their TikTok. I mean, oh my God. So they were like, oh, we're doing this. But it was like the amount of payroll and people you need to make it to just all of that is crazy. So you were probably smart not doing that.
It was crazy. And that's honestly what it came down to is like, oh, I need like a person to do this. And so then I was going to do it just on Saturdays and staff an extra person. And I kind of got lost in the sauce of this like spiral in a Facebook boutique owners group of how well they're doing for people. And then I like priced them out and I was like, oh, these would be great. And the vendor I bought it from on Fair was very, very clear that it was like very easy to assemble and that everything came ready. but every single charm needed a jump ring added on to it. And it was either sit and like, if everything had a jump ring on it, it could have been like a build your own necklace charm bar, because you would just slide it on the little adapter that the chains have. There's like a carabiner, like your keychain carabiner, but on a mini scale. Would have worked great. It just wasn't there. And I had absolutely zero time to put 1,000 jump rings on 1,000 charms. And so I ended up just being like, like, fuck
it is. That's, I think, the reason why rock art is like why people get crazy about it, because these charms you're buying for 30, 40 cents, $1, $4, and
they were like $1 to $3
and every
wholesale,
like 10 and 15. So
yeah,
you put the profit margin in that, which if you're smart, for those stores that are doing it, you build that profit margin is what you build your extra payroll into. But
right.
You can always, for your store down the line, you could bring in somebody to do it, because there's a ton of girls now doing pop-up,
Yes. And I will let somebody else come in and take reins of that one. So
what was the surprise that out of all the things that you tested, they're not your product, what was the surprise sell through for you?
I'm trying to go through everything in my head. So for the most part, everything kind of did what I wanted it to. There was one jewelry brand in particular, which I knew that it was going to land, but I didn't realize how it would land. And it's called Alien Brats with a Z at the end. It's a woman-owned business on Fair. And they're very kitschy dangle earrings. Like, they're just a dangle earring with some sort of like a burger hanging from it, or a French fry, or like very kitschy, cute, that type of like earring. And they're priced pretty well. Like, I had a 3x markup on them, which was great, because they were like $4 to $6 costs, and we did them at like 12 to 18.
Right there, I love that you shared that. I'm just going to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah, my minimum markup is a 2.25. I absolutely will not sell anything for less than that. 2.5. There's a couple. I mean, 2.5 is much preferred, but there's a couple things where I'm like, I can't quite get there. What surprised me? My fragrances didn't land. That was one that didn't work great. Which I kind of expected, but I was expecting like a 20% sell through, and it was more like 10.
Were they like serious perfumes? Or like, because there's a line, I'm sure you've seen it, Demeter, that's like, it totally would be your store, because there are all these funky scents like dirt and grass, and they're like 10 and 15, $10, $20 like that. Like, we sold some of them at Anthro. I mean, these go back to my days at Fred Siegel.
Okay. Yeah, I think the fragrances I tested, I think fragrance would work in my store. I just don't think I had the right price point of fragrance. I wanted to test out a little bit more boutique cologne lines. And so I brought in one men's fragrance line, which I actually thought was going to sell, because men are the hardest people to buy for on the earth. And then this like unisex perfuming line, with the packaging was gorgeous, the bottles were gorgeous, but they were like $98 fragrances, and then the men's line was like $74. And I sold a couple. I think a under $50 fragrance is what would land in the type of vibe that I attract out of the store. And most things in the store are like under $30, which sucks because it's hard to have, huge sales days, because it's a volume game, which I have that problem same situation in my stationery business. The most expensive thing I sell wholesale is $6. So, but I wouldn't have never tested them without the fair returns. And that's actually like what fair returns are designed for, is testing those types of things. But yeah, nothing else really sticks out to me, because I know what sells. That's the gift that I was blessed with by the world. Adult party games did not sell that well. I ordered a bunch of like unique party games, like probably like 20 different styles of like fun card games, like Cards Against Humanity vibe spin-offs, you know. And those didn't do
If it
as
has
well.
art, if it has a penis, and if it has poop, those are the ones that I can tell you.
Well, let me tell you the first two things to sell out in the store, which is hilarious to me. The first ornament to sell out was a heart-shaped ornament that just said cunt. And my business partner and I had a little bit of a discussion about it when we were unboxing everything. She's like, Andrew, like my business partner's 50, I'm 26, and I love her. Her name's Bridget. She's like, Andrew, is this crossing a line? And I was like, it's fine, trust me. And then I ordered in a puzzle covered in dicks. And that was the second thing to sell out. So dicks and cunt is what sold first. But it wasn't surprising to me, but it is a fact that that's what sold first.
Well, I mean, again, like the San Francisco Mercantile, his ornaments in his store in, he's got 3 in San Francisco, and the one that is, I can't remember, Castro District has all like the boobs and the penises and like, and those are all, I think he keeps them up year round because they sell so well. Same thing as Curious, like those,
he does a whole dick tree.
It sells.
Yeah. Andrew has a dick tree at Curious and it cracks me up. That's like one thing I wanted to bring in the store that I ended up not doing was the Cody Foster ornaments. I had a cart built, but it was something that if I was going to take a couple $1,000s and like invest it into something, I wanted something that wasn't seasonal. I know them. I know they do. And you know, we were in the middle of a campaign and I was like, I was going to get the Kamala one. And I just ended up choosing to take that $4,000 and put it at other things. So, yeah.
So, okay. So one of the other questions was that I had for you, my phone keeps turning off. Operating cost
yeah.
You know, when it comes to your ROI, your return on investment, talk about like everything combined, because you and your outfit were out there doing the numbers on sales, rent, and pay. So let's get down to that.
Yeah. So I have my overhead split into 2 costs. The building plus everything except labor is $3,100 a month. Mortgage payment, insurance, lights, camera action, like internet, not bad. Our mortgage is like $2,200, I think, and then there's like $900 worth of all the other shit. So $3,100 is like our baseline overhead a month, and then our labor is $147 per day that we're open. That's at $18 an hour, which comes to roughly $21 an hour cost for us with payroll taxes on top of the $18. So that's where that number comes from. And so we were open 4 days a week. And so it was about $2,500 a month in labor. Our like daily operating costs based on being open 4 days a week was like $350, which is crazy if you went to think about, you know what I mean? Like, we are unlocking this door and we are starting the day negative $350.
Yep.
So that was for the operating costs.
And how did you do ultimately at the end on it? Some people will go through like, you know, stores that have really big budgets, including like if you're a big store and you have goals, and like my goal, you guys need to do $25,000 this month. A lot of stores will break it down by the day, and then to get the retail team behind it so they understand, break it down by the hour. So how were you breaking it down to see where you were at with breaking even?
So my goal, I actually never did the break even number. Well, I kind of did. So at $350 a day, the store needed to sell $700 worth of store merchandise, not vendor merchandise, to break even at like a 50% profit margin on products. It's just the rough number we used, regardless of our markup. I always use the worst case scenario when I'm predicting numbers and setting goals. So for every dollar that the store makes, we make 50 cents. So that's kind of what we went off. So $700 a day was like our bare minimum goal. I had a goal of $20,000 per month. So I wanted like $5,000 weekends, which 4-day weekends is all we're open anyways, which I thought was a very reasonable goal. But I did like a temp check. I like have connections in the community to the other people with stores on Main Street. And so like the numbers were all over the place of what people are doing. There are stores only like there's a store doing 13,000 a month, or like 15,000 is a good month, but their overhead is like $1,800. There's another store doing $25,000 a month, but they've been around for 30 years. And there's a bar down the street that does like $2,000 a day. There's a restaurant pulling $190,000 a month. So it's like everyone is at a different number. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to pick 20. And like that would have been the number that I was happy with. It would have paid all the bills. There would have been a little extra money. Like everything was fine. We ended up doing, where's the number? I think we should, hold on. First, we should talk about vendors, and then we'll do the grand reveal of the numbers.
Yeah, because about the vendors, because you said the vendors' dollars weren't included in what you needed, but you guys were on commission. What was the commission structure?
Yeah, so this is crucial information before we understand money numbers. So in an effort to get money right this second, we did two types of vendors. We had one that paid a rent and a 15% commission, and they had their own space. And we took vendors on consignment just at a flat 40% consignment rate. So like very traditional. So we had a vendor rent income of $2,200 a month is what it came out to be. So $4,400 total. And in addition to that, in an effort to cut labor cost, we had every vendor work once, volunteer type shift during the 9 weeks of being open, which helped a lot. There was 18 vendors. And so at $147 a day times 18, that's how much money we saved in labor costs, which was great. Our labor ended up costing, we only had one employee. And so our labor ended up costing, I think the first month it was like $900, and then the second month was like $1,100 or something. So much lower than the $2,500 a month. So we basically cut our costs in half, which was great. And
didn't so with you charging rent, didn't their rent cover your mortgage?
The rent covered the mortgage, which was great.
Yeah.
And then, so the vendors paying rent, they had a 15% commission, which, I mean, 3% of that goes out the door to credit card sales. It's like a 12% commission. And like at the end of the day, that really covers bags and marketing and stickers and the post, you know what I mean? Like that 15% isn't for profit. It's really for operational expenses.
So you covered all the bags for them and the tissue.
We covered all the bags. We covered wrapping. We covered everything. Price stickers, like all of that type of stuff was included in that little wrap up. And then the consignment vendors were just an easy 40%. It was a way to fill shelves, fill the store without having the upfront costs for the inventory. And then my own line was in there, which was That's So Andrew was basically a vendor of That's So Festive. And it was just like a 50% consignment vendor. And that way the store didn't have to upfront money to myself, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But I have 700 SKUs. So it was a very significant amount of products to bring to fill the store shelf. So it was, I brought 6 of everything, 300 cards, like 50 different keychains. Like there was a lot. And like my stuff ended up taking like an 8x8 foot panel of pegboard, is what my line like fit onto. But yeah, with that said, we ended up doing $29,000 over the course of the 9 weeks that we were open. Well, like 8.5, but 9 weeks. So that was our grand total, was 29,000.
29,000.
Not including the vendor rent income, which is another 4,400.
So profit or loss?
We ended up in the green.
Good.
We roughly profited about $4,000.
That's great.
So,
and that's week, so that's doable.
And I do want to say that in terms of like my business partner and I's donated labor for the entire course of it was, with the exception of setup and that type of stuff, just like the days that we worked the store, we both clocked less than 40 hours. So if we were to divide that by $2,000 for like 40 hours of work in the store is kind of what it came out to. We just kept the money to keep the building mortgage paid, but yeah, that's how it turned out.
So now you're the mercantile.
So now we've rebranded to the Monitor Mercantile, and we restructured. So we got rid of vendor spaces and vendor rent. And the number one cost that we have is the labor. And now vendors work 2 days a month with no rent, and they pay a 15% commission. And then we also have a couple vendors on just straight consignment at 40%. So we have 5 vendors that stayed from That's So Festive. And then we're looking for 3 to 4 more. So we'll have 18 to 20 volunteer days per month. And then the store just needs to sell $70 to $100 a month to pay the mortgage, which is the goal. And we have 2/3 of an empty building in the back that we're also, like, half of it's going to be a class space that we're going to rent out and lease out to people to do art classes or hold meetings or whatever. And then the other half is going to become the That's So Andrew warehouse, which I'm so excited about.
Good. Where's your warehouse now?
In my living room.
Okay, there you go.
If you're watching.
That's your living room?
My living room and dining room is not a living room and dining room. And it's been like this since January of last year. I had a studio before, and I had to get rid of it when I got divorced to be able to afford my house. So That's So Andrew's moving out of the house into its own studio. That's actually what my March is going to be, is moving. And I am so relieved and so excited. And so in the event that the store is not making money to cover the bases, That's So Andrew will step in and cover the difference. But as of right now, it's the store is breaking even. That's So Andrew doesn't pay any rent. We're renting out the other space for class space. And we're taking like a 2-year hiatus from searching for more money to do the bar build out and just letting things flow.
That's smart. I think that, I think that the long-term goal is super smart. I mean, I love the long-term goal, but I think that is such a short window to go from a pop-up store and then ramping right into that. I think that this gives you more time of seeing, again, what works, what doesn't, and it may take off and do something completely different than
100%
people thought, which this gives you time to really flesh it out.
Yeah. And so, That's So Andrew is doing really well. And so if those finances change, it might not ever be a bar. It might be the That's So Andrew center, where the whole back is taken over into warehouse and fulfillment. We have a storefront in the front. And it might become that, or it might become a coffee shop. And I just don't know. So it just depends, in 18 months when we start looking for money again, how much we can find, and if that's something that we want to do. So
you could have people go in and be sublease, like
at the worst case, we could just go rent it, And so we talk about the ROI, which unique to this situation. We're making money off the equity of the building growing as well. There's also an asset there. And so it's just like, having your house, it's an investment. And so we could sell the building. That's worst case scenarios. We sell the building, or we lease it. And so, that's kind of where we're at.
I mean, have you been and I think we talked about it, but have you been to Palm Springs and been to, I think it's the Mojave General?
I've never been to Palm Springs, but I want to go so bad. I have like 4 stores there too. And
me too. I mean, I know. I mean, it's amazing. But there's 2, I think, Joshua Tree has a Joshua Tree multi-vendor store. We've had them for the life of me. I can't remember his name. And then there's the Mojave General Store. And it's same thing. It's one big giant space, but they've got a coffee person there. They have like a little general store that sells snacks and drinks and wine if you want like bottles of wine. And then all these different vendors, and they're all curated as if it's one store. So it's cohesive, and you flow from one store. They ring you at one station. I said this before. I think that's honestly like the way of the future of retail, for it to be a shared experience, it to be interactive, it to be where, multiple owners are carrying the weight of it. I truly think that's like what is the next generation of retail.
Yeah. And I like this hybrid approach we've taken to that. The vendors, we use the phrasing partnership form because at the end of the day, it really is like the marketing takes, now we want 9 people doing the marketing. We want 9 people fluffing and doing the store. Like, we want to work as a team, and it's like they have no risk. Like, well, that's the one thing my business partner and I take on, is we take on the risk. We sell nothing. We still have to pay the mortgage, where we're giving these 5 women at the moment a chance to trade some of their time to make some money, because people either are missing time or they're missing money. And I'm missing time. My partner's missing time. But these women, they have time. Their kids are in school and they want money. And so it works for them. And so I think it'll be great. And I think the sales goal is reasonable enough. So yeah. And also it was our first time opening. Like, I'm not mad at the $29,000. Like, we were open for 9 weeks. I announced it a month maybe before we started doing it. Like, no one knows what it is. No one knows what That's So Festive is. There's no name to it. There's no nothing. And so for a first run, I'll take it. And
4 days a week. Let's not.
And 4 days a week, which in December we did add Wednesdays, but it ended up only being 3 extra days that whole month. And just for like the number of people, we did $29,000. Of that, we had 36% of it was the vendor income. 36% was our inventory that we sold as a store. Plus 14% of it was just That's So Andrew, which, if you're a retailer watching this, That's So Andrew has sell-through, bitches, and you should carry it in your store. 14% of the sales off of an 8x8 foot pegboard.
Phenomenal.
And then 8% of it was just consignment vendor income. So that's kind of the breakdown of the 29,000 for you number people. So write it down, rewind and write down what I just said. But yeah.
Sharing that. Okay. We're going to ask the questions. You put it out there on Instagram about a week ago and said you're going on the podcast. What do you want to know about the pop-up shop? The number one question you got was, would you do it again?
I was hoping you'd ask me that at the very, very end.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. Listen, you're going to call me crazy. Okay. You're going to call me a fucking nut job. I want to do it again. I don't want to do it in the same place. And I also really want to do like 3 of them.
I love it. Okay. Hold on one second. Cause my dog just knocked.
Yeah, you're good.
Blood out of the wall. Oh God. I don't know how she did that. like the whole thing went like dark. I'm like, what the hell's going on? That's not crazy at all, because if you talk to any of us retailers that are passionate, that love retail and truly love what we do, that's the reason why people start opening more stores. It's just, it's not crazy at all. I mean, it would be crazy to do it again during show season. That I'll give you crazy, but I think doing it, I mean, you had twofold. You had holiday season coming up, which is a crazy time of retail anyway. But then you had your gift show prep, and let's not forget your other job of flying. So, it's not like you're this is all you're doing.
Yeah. So I would do it again. And my asterisk to that is I have no interest in doing it again alone. And so I think it would take a strategic team of partners to execute it. And I think if I'm going to have a team of partners, it makes sense to do more than one location. It's basically the same thing, copy and paste. And so I have a couple like places that I want to do it. I really want to test one out at a mall. One of our busier malls, not a dead ghost town of a mall. And it would make buying a lot easier. I can order Cody Foster ornaments, which like sometimes they're sold in like 10, like the MOQ per item is like 10. And so now I can order for 3 stores and I can divide. And I think it would work. And, I have a customer list from everyone that came last year. Like we captured emails and things. And I think it's one of those things that definitely could catch on, like if Spirit Halloween can be open for a month, so can That's So Festive. And I would do it for a shorter run. I think a 6-week run is much better than 9 weeks. I think.
Well, okay. Let me like you opened October 25th. Because it's a holiday store. Retailers are rolling holiday out earlier and earlier, thanks to Hobby Lobby and whatnot.
Right.
Fucking hot, like Christmas is out like in, I swear to God, like fucking like
August. Yeah.
So how, was it not worth being open 10/25? Were you having sales that were holiday sales or did you notice that it wasn't worth opening that early?
So our opening weekend was insane. It was great, but it had the buzz of opening weekend. November was so slow that it made me consider all my life decisions in doing this project. And I didn't do the monthly breakdown for you, and I should have, but I think we made well over half our sales in the 3 weeks of December versus the prior 6 weeks. And I've talked to a lot of retailers that I have relationships with that I sell to. And I was like, did y'all have a slow start to the season? Because to me, it was a very, very delayed start. And I don't think things started until Thanksgiving this year. And I think a huge contributing factor is the fact that we had an election going on.
100%.
Election years are always weird. And Thanksgiving also just felt very late to everybody this year. You know what I mean?
I mean, it was...
And it was, but... So there was a late start. I think I could have opened Black Friday weekend, to be honest, and probably made $29,000.
I guess as a pop-up shop, we would. I mean, I think for established retailers, I think rolling it out sooner because everyone's, again, in competition with, because by the time normal retailers now, if it's opening, Thanksgiving weekend, fuck holiday,
too late,
everybody else is on sale. Literally, it's
totally
%, which is unfortunate. So I think that but I guess as a pop-up shop, that does make sense just to be like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, we're open. It's one and done. It also gets that, I feel like it also gives that scarcity feeling like if I don't get in there now, it's going to be gone. And I only have this one time.
Our original plan was to open November 1st, but I double booked myself that weekend to go do a fucking market, a fair myself. And so we opened the weekend before. I feel like November 15th is the perfect opening weekend for this type of situation. I think it gives you a minute to work kinks out before Black Friday weekend, So I think that's, if I do if I end up signing these leases and solidifying new locations, that's probably what we'll do. And then that way, the leases that I negotiate are like true 90-day leases. Like we move in October 1st, open November 15th, close Christmas Eve, and we are out by January 1st. Like that, I think, is the ideal timeline for something like this.
That's smart. Very well thought out. You can tell. The next question was, since we're talking about seasonal, what percentage of goods were seasonal versus everyday general gift?
So in terms of like actual seasonality, like ornaments, Christmas cards, Christmas decor, and I should say more than Christmas, because we had like Hanukkah and Kwanzaa representation, just holiday, maybe about 15%. Everything else, I kept telling everybody it was just the perfect store for your stocking stuffers. And that's kind of like where I went with my purchasing and like the kind of stuff I brought in, which that's kind of what stationery is. And that's like the niche I'm in. So I just went very, very giftable. And a lot of it was intended to be holiday specific gifts. Like we had teacher themed things. We had a huge Taylor Swift section, nurses, Harry Potter. Like we made it easy for people to shop for people. You know, we curated little vignettes that matched, you know, like, oh, my friend Brittany loves Harry Potter. Like anything off the shelf will work for her. So, but in terms of like true seasonal stuff that like I had to pack into boxes afterwards, I'd say about 15% of what we ordered was holiday cards and holiday themed ornaments, because we kept a lot of the ornaments that are like a fucking pizza slice. So yeah, I think that about 15%.
Well, that makes me, because you just said you boxed up your holiday stuff. I mean, for one, I'm going to go backwards for a second. Holiday has been hard as a retail like category, like overt holiday, Santa, like snowman. Like when I was buying for 5-store pharmacies, like I started noticing it a while ago, and it was like, after a while, I was like, fuck, I'm not ordering holiday anymore, because I keep boxing it up. And it was like, you know, if I had like I don't know if you bought anything from Choose Company, everything comes like in 18s and 24s. And, you know, I would have like, if I had 12 left, it was like, all right, we'll save this and then we'll reinvent it next year. So you box it all up. You close the day before Christmas or 23rd. So what are you doing? What is the plan with what would be normally people put on sale? Are you just going to bring it out like next year or?
Yeah, we didn't have that opportunity for the day after Christmas sale, which in
hindsight,
if I do 3 locations, I will. But I went back to work Christmas Day, like flying for the airline. And so it wasn't there in the cards. And luckily the product's small, like it's 3 totes worth of stuff. It's like, you know, wrapping paper and cards. Like I did go a little hard on Christmas cards, or holiday cards in general, and ordered like 100 different styles, 6 of each. So I ordered like 600 cards. So it doesn't take up a lot of space. I am just going to save it till next year is the plan. So we'll have the Monitor Mercantile gift shop to do Christmas in, or it'll get free phased into some of the pop-up stores if we end up doing those. But in hindsight, definitely like an after Christmas sale. And then I might end up pulling out Christmas cards and like bundling them into like mystery packs, maybe. People love that type of situation where it's like 10 cards for $5, but I don't know. It doesn't take up enough. There wasn't enough of it that I see the burden of storing it isn't large. Like it's like 3 Home Depot black totes worth of stuff.
And that looks like it's being boxed up. Do you have a total of how much?
What was that?
What was the inventory cost of?
My business partner is the one that pulled all the Christmas stuff. And so, I mean, it's probably less than $2,000. I don't, probably $1,000, honestly, like if I'm thinking about the price point of stuff we brought in, we moved a lot of it, and I didn't reorder anything that had sold out if it was seasonal. Like no matter how quickly it's like, even the cunt ornament sold out like in the first 2 weeks. I didn't reorder it. I was like, buy something else. But yeah, just with some ornament, yeah, probably like $1,000, just because it's a smaller store. So to me, it's not worth it selling it at a loss when it's just because it's so minimal. If there was more, we'd be having a garage sale. we would. We'd be having a break-even sale, like just to get the money back. So, and a lot of it was that So Andrew merchandise. Like I have 20 Christmas cards in my own line. Half our gift bags were mine. So a lot of that just went back into That's So Andrew return to sender. So yeah, that's not included in the situation.
So we talked about earlier about the budget. That was one of your listeners' questions was,
yeah,
you had it and you didn't.
It was 13 and it turned to 25. And if I do and more of that, so festive stores, I will have a true budget and I will stick to it. Scout's honor.
No one does, just to let you know.
I will stick closer to it. I won't double it on a whim.
One of the questions was, how did you incorporate vendors? I don't know if they're talking about your consignment vendors or your vendors that you were purchasing. I'll let you answer both ways.
Yeah. The high level rundown was we brought vendors in. Everybody had a vendor number and every price tag had a vendor number on it and a price, and everything was rang through a central system. So everything went through our POS system. We used Clover for the store, by the way. Nobody asked that question. Suck Clover.
Why? If you don't mind me asking.
I don't fucking like it. There was a bunch of subscription fees that were hidden, that it was not disclosed in our sales pitch. I find the system very archaic, and just not very intuitive or user friendly.
How come you didn't Shopify, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, would love to have used Shopify. However, because of the way we did the vendors, we needed to be able to click a button on a screen and enter a price in that linked it to that. And Shopify and all their fucking bullshit ass partner apps that they partner with do not have a variable price button.
Listen.
Nowhere and anywhere. Okay. I looked because I wanted to do Shopify, because then everything I ordered off Faire would have integrated with it, and I could have tracked things significantly more and had a lot more information at this moment of like what sold and sell through and inventory and whatever. So with that said, I don't like Clover, and we just switched over to Square. I prefer Square over Clover. As an Apple user, it feels more like an Apple app than an Android app. Clover feels like an Android to me. So like easiest way I can explain it in terms of like just the intuitive feel of it. And Square and Clover both integrate with Faire for when you're ordering. It just imports all your product, which is nice. And I had to buy a $300 barcode scanner, but everything's being converted over to having like stickers. While I'll getting to have my variable price buttons. So, and Shopify reporting isn't great if you're having vendors. It's kind of hard to break out the reports to see how much each person made. But I digress. So used Clover, everything went through our system. And then once a month, we would pay all the vendors for the previous month sales. And then all the vendors get 1099. So we collect and remit all the sales tax on them. They don't have to worry about anything. They just get a deposit and they got a 1099 if they made enough money. So they're basically contractors. And that's how it was done. That's how I incorporated them.
You had contracts with them, like, to work the one day or whatever it was, and a code of conduct as well, of like, this is acceptable behavior, this is not. I mean,
yeah,
not that but
we did have contract. We're currently revising the contract for this next edition of the store. Not because anything happened, but just because I used a contract from a store I used to be a vendor in. Like I changed it a little bit and I just went with it. And my business partner just took a business law college level course. And so she's using that little knowledge to kind of revamp it a little bit. But basically it covered their commitment. It covered like them not being able to pull out like halfway through the store season if they're not having a good time, like if they're not having success, which like we had one vendor, her product just didn't land how any of us thought. And so she wanted to leave like after 1 month. We ended up letting her, but based on the contract, we didn't have to. It covered payout, like a payout schedule and that kind of thing. And then it also included like a whole situation releasing us of any liability to anything that gets broken, anything that gets stolen. Like, you know, it's not on us. Yeah, so we did have a contract. And it was more informal or more informative than anything. And also some verbiage about like, we reserve the right to kick you out at any time. You know, so if one of my vendors goes and gets canceled, which we don't align ourselves with people like that, but you know, if something happens or, you know, we discover one of them is racist or homophobic secretly, you know, like
To cancel,
it gives us the right to void at any time.
That's what I was asking about the code of conduct. So if you had, that's kind of, the whole cancel culture, it's going to be interesting because I haven't experienced much of it, but I've heard like there was a store, and this is going totally off comment, but there was a store in, I don't know, like somewhere like in a college town, and they sold crystals and they sold sage. And I guess some of the college girls decided that the sage that she was selling was, according to them, off Native American land. And they were, even though the vendor knew who she was buying it from, it was, but these girls got together and did this whole Facebook campaign. And the store like actually had to email the vendor and it's like, I'm so sorry to ask this. Can you please take this back? Like, I've never experienced this. Like literally, like no one's coming into the store. These girls put out this Facebook thing and like ruined her. I mean, but just like, it was so infuriating to realize that somebody could actually do that to a business. And it's like, why? What? Why?
I think my beef with cancel culture is no one ever leaves room for the other side. Yep. Everyone makes their conclusions and they stick to it. And I've seen time and time again a situation similar to that where it's like one person's wrong is amplified and gains traction, and it's either opinionated information or biased information, and there's never really an opportunity for the other person to like explain their side. And when they are given that opportunity, people have already made up their minds. And that's what's weird to me is like, I'm very much I was always told there's 3 sides to every story. There's yours, there's his, and there's the truth. You know, I don't know if you've ever heard that one, but like, that's what my mom's always said to me. There's 3 sides to every story. And we're not listening to side 2 or 3. It's just side 1. We make our decision. And it's weird to me. And I see it a lot in celebrity fandom. It's like, I love Ariana Grande and I love Beyonce. And I also acknowledge that they can do things wrong, where there's so many people that are very blinded by their bias for these people they idolize. So yeah, it's kind of ick. And then randomly sidebarring back to, you mentioned crystals. I had a crystal vendor, and that actually is the item that shocked me with sell-through. I should circle back and clarify. The vendor's merchandise was surprising to me what sold. So crystals, holy fuck.
Yep.
Holy fuck. Okay.
So it's an election year. So any troubled times, people look to, I mean, if you could, I'm going to show you next to my desk, I have my that's all.
Yeah.
Rituals, and I have my little rituals that I do, but crystals do. It's like shot, but that whole like Arc Made, you have to look at Arc.
Mm-hmm.
Like her products are amazing. She sells like it's kind of snarky, but the woo woo, but that whole woo woo crystals, the books, tarot.
Yeah.
Oh, do amazing.
Yeah. So we had 18 vendors, and this is what I'll circle back to in the shocking of sell through. The top four, I don't remember the order of the top four because they were all like similar in how much money they pulled. Crystals was insane, and our crystal dealer are two lesbian witches. Love them.
Oh.
And there's the girl I previously mentioned, Bonnie, that sells car fresheners. She absolutely killed it with a $4 price point product.
Wow.
Was competing with crystals and our clothing vendor. The clothing vendor killed it. She did like graphic Christmas sweatshirts and tees and stuff. There was one, she made like $400 in one day because a group of 6 women came in and they all bought one of her hoodies that said hangover hoodie. Listen, it's not for me. I think it's so dumb, but I get why it sells. Okay. Or she had some that was like, I like my trees real thick and sprucey. Like they were very cute addition. So the apparel, the crystals, the car freshener lady, which she does sell wholesale if you're a retailer. Her fare is Bubbly Scents. She's a great progressive lady. Love her. And then this one company, Beckman Design, it's a friend of mine that owns it. I've known her for years. She really specializes in gifts curated for, like, they're for men. Like, they're flasks, they're engraved flasks and keychains and bottle openers, and they're very masculine color palette, leather and that kind of things. And I wasn't surprised her stuff sold, but it sold really well. She's also on Fair, if you want to look up her stuff. But that niche of gifts for men is very, very underserved in a lot of markets. Yeah. So those were like our top 4 out of the 18. Honorable mentions to crochet plushies. We have one girl, she has like 3 kids, and she crochets like little figurines and plushies and stuff. Those sold, which was more surprising to me. Like, they're super cute. I just didn't realize stuff like that really moved anymore, but yeah.
Your last question, you touched on with the idea of opening more of these with a 90-day window, which means you're going into a temporary lease situation. How do you negotiate a short-term lease?
Ooh, it's funny because I couldn't answer this question previously because I didn't need one because I bought the building. So malls, a lot of them have short-term lease options, which is something I never knew. And then they're becoming more and more popular. I think my strategy right now is for the locally, it depends if you're in a city or if you're in a small town. In small towns, it's usually they're like family buildings, like some grandpa owns it. He's old and his daughter runs it for him. It's a very, very common occurrence here, in these smaller towns. It's like that generational wealth, and those ones are a lot easier than the corporate leases. I don't think you can go to a strip mall and be like, hey, I want to come here, convert the space for 90 days and leave.
I think you can.
But you can try. Yeah, I think that's I think that's going to be the hardest route, is those just random commercial strip malls. I don't think it's impossible. I think people want money, and I think if you time it with it being empty, it works out well, like a business just going out. I think that's the prime time to kind of slide in and be like, hey, if you don't find a long-term vendor, I'll fill in these 3 months. I also recently learned, don't fact check on me, but somebody told me that, and their dad owns a building. That's their credit. Okay. That's the source. They said that if the entire space sits empty for a whole year, it's eligible for a write-off, where if it's rented part-time, it's not. So she told me to look for buildings that have been and that were rented during the like 12-month calendar.
I think each state has it different. I
Probably.
IRS wise, I would guess, but that's there. I mean, I think there. I mean, let's face it. After COVID, there's a hell of a lot of fucking empty.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Better, but it's. I know from one of my clients that their whole business is built on going in these temporary leases in big malls. So like DeLong Mall in Torrance, they're in another mall in Lakewood, and some are great malls, some are suck malls. And the challenge is with these temporary leases, which I'll tell you from experience, is that they go in, you are assuming whatever person's old shitty fixture. So one of their spaces, they're a crystal store, and one of their spaces was like, I think like a lingerie store that wanted to be like Victoria's Secret. So all hearing was like this black lacquer, and it had this hideous, huge chandelier. And it's like, yeah, you could take it out, but the cost to take it out. So you assume their identity to a certain extent.
Totally, yeah.
But then even worse is for the ones that you do spend the money to renovate, like for, you think you don't know how long you're going to be there for.
Right.
Somebody starts coming in and looking at the space. They will tell you, okay, you got to move next month. And literally they just got into some of these spaces within months and had me come in and do the opening. We did all new fixtures that fit the space because they went from a small space to a big space. They had to buy new. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, you have to move now. And it's like the cost of all that. And then they're moving in. It's like, it's a tricky thing, but if you're negotiating it with a hard 90-day, these are mine. That's where you won't have that situation. But those deals are going on all over malls right now because they're the worst hit out of everybody.
Totally. And I don't know, gut feeling of me, I really feel like a mall resurgence is going to happen. I think we're hitting the peak of people being tired of shopping online. It's sitting in me. I hate buying clothes online. I love an in-person shopping. I think it's shifting, but I think we're going to get so far away from the retail shopping that then it's going to become a nostalgic revival. You know how things circle and loop. Maybe that's just me manifesting.
I think they have to they're like, there's malls that are in, like, I think one by my old house in Manhattan Beach took an old shitty mall that was all like, took the lid off and opened it up, and now they have all these interactive things. I mean, I think that is how malls are going to but the old dinosaurs of, like 15-acre malls that are all in Sears as one of the anchors, and Kohl's, and those ones
they're out for sure. The malls themselves are going to have to pivot. But my biggest challenge right now is I'm thinking ahead, thank God. But I'm trying to design fixtures in a way that they're easy in and also easy out and easy to reuse, because that's, I think, long term how I keep my overhead build out costs low is a fix. I feel like they need to be one-time purchases, so doing a remodel on a budget, but also be able to take everything with you.
A trade show mentality, which is great that you're in there.
Yeah, it's basically that. Yeah, I want it to come back out with me. I don't want to install 360 pegboard and then they're like, oh, you attached it to the walls, it's ours now. You know what I mean? Or anything of that sort. So that's kind of what I'm brainstorming, is how to do temporary in a way that looks good, which I kill it at trade shows. So of course I could kill it at a store. I know, me and Mark, I told Mark if I do 3 stores, I promised him I would hire a contractor.
Of your dad.
I'm like, I won't make you build out 3 stores, Mark. I promise.
I said that last time. I love your dad.
I'm keeping him young. He's 69. He's going to be 70 in June. Keeping that fucker young. Huh?
I've had you for an hour and 45 minutes. This is 40 minutes. This is like the longest one. I don't know if we're going to break it up into 2. I think we're just going to run it as one. But thank you
run it,
so much for your time. I love these
Absolutely.
Tell everyone where they can find you again, and we'll make sure they will be in the show notes.
Absolutely. You You can follow my new storefront at the Monitor Mercantile on Instagram. You can follow me and all my chaos and my great, hilarious coffee rant videos and branding at that's so Andrew with an underscore at the end. My business page is very much just a lot of my personality shining through, and it's not very businessy at all. It's just a good time. And you can check out my line at that'ssoandrew.com. If you're a retailer, you can find me on Fair or online. And what else? Oh, I have a TikTok too. Find me there.
You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Yes, it was an absolute pleasure. And I'll see you for episode 4.
Oh, yes.